Michael, thanks very much indeed for being with us this evening. We're in great company. We're going to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah.
Willie said there he was working with you to break the record. What did it feel like that moment when you crossed the line and you knew you'd achieved it?
It's probably kind of hard to explain. Like, I knew it's gonna. I don't know how to say it without sounding confident or whatever, but I sort of knew rolling into it that it was capable. A lot of things before now, like people might have thought you were trying to get it or take a shot at it, when realistically I had a long journey to go. Like I had to take my time down bit by bit. So in previous marathons, maybe when you come home, people say, "Oh, you're still away." In my head, I'm like, "Well, I'm a wee bit closer, and I'm getting there."
Yeah.
So in this one, leading into it, I knew that if things went right or went well on the day, that it was possible, and that it was going to be even the day before and stuff. So with that in mind, still throughout the marathon, things can go terribly wrong very quick. So I was just in this wee tiny bubble the whole day, just tick, 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 tick. And then it never really hit me till I hit like the last 100 metres. And even though I had this all going on and knew everything was right, I just turned home straight and burst out crying. Like, so
Did you?
I don't even know like what the feeling was, just a big sense of relief, I suppose. Like,
Well,
you know,
you're in a room tonight with lots of people who know how things can go wrong very quickly when you're running. An injury, a not feeling well, not getting your rhythm, not getting your breathing right.
Yeah.
To have that achievement and have that moment and to hear that you were crying at the end,
speeching,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I had all these visions for years, like, of, well, when the day I do this, I'm going to come up the home straight like a football, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to do this for a lovely photo. And every photo, I'm just crying the last 100 metres the whole way up, and tears trip my face, my nipples are bleeding. I'm like, that wasn't the way it was meant to look, you know what I mean? But it was class. It's a class.
Listen, we'll come back and we'll step through each one of those 26 miles. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did running start for you?
I was a kid at maybe 7 or 8, and like most kids around here, like you go through everything. You go through football, Gaelic, hurling, hockey, whatever, and I wasn't much good at any of them. Like, went to the primary school cross country down in Kilbroney. I think it was maybe 7.
What primary school were you at?
St Patrick's in the Meadow. Yeah.
In the Meadow.
I'm a wee Meadow man too.
Another wee Meadow man.
We've kept it close, something in the water down there.
Definitely something in the water.
But I done that the first year you can do it, and I came 8th place or something, and I come back home, and I said this to you previous, there was a man lived beside us, fixed bicycles from his home, and I'd been telling him, I was like, I did this race and I was 8th place, and how am I going to win it? I got beat, and I was a wee angry 8-year-old, you know, and he was, at the time I thought he was doing me a good thing, but now I'm looking back, he used to say, go around the block and I'll time you. And I'd run around the block.
He lived
right beside me. So we'd run around, I'd run around College Gardens, up Mountain View, back down. And sure, I was probably away for 10 minutes, and he'd come back and go, 14, 15, go again. He just wanted rid of me, like. But
no, he didn't.
After a few weeks, he had said to my parents, look, you should take him to a wee running club or somewhere, you know. Maybe
so let everybody into the secret.
Yeah.
Actually, that man is an international athlete himself. That's Brian Monaghan.
Yeah.
And Brian Monaghan's my uncle. So my uncle would inspired you to be a marathon runner.
Well, not marathons.
He set the seeds.
Yeah. So, and then they sent me to running club, and I was only a kid, like, and it was easy. Not easy, but like, there was no. I think running's a great sport. There's no skill required. There's no thinking required. There's no. You know, it's pretty straightforward.
We'll tease that out as we go through the evening. I mean, there's a lot of skill, a lot of thinking about it. But obviously, when you're in primary school and you're just running for the enjoyment of running.
Yeah, I was only a kid, like, so. And then, like anything, like any sport, like if you take to it and you're any way good at it, you're going to like it more. And it sort of fell into place there. And then I went back to that little cross country the next year, and I won it. From there on, like right through school, like so.
Any tears then?
No. Maybe of pain or something or cold, but no, not like nowadays.
And as you went through school, did you keep up the running?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was a decent young kid, and then into high school I was good. I'd got Irish schools medals as a young teenager in St Joseph's High School, and that come into my teens, late teens, early 20s, and then I went out to do a trade. Was doing bricklaying for a good few years, and just was too tough with trying to do that. So going to Dublin every day and training. And in my early 20s, I sort of slowly drifted away from it. And then at 24, maybe, I went to Australia for a few years. Right. And got fat and packed it all in completely for a couple of years.
No running at all out in Australia?
No, I did for a while.
Yeah.
And then I went off to work a job that I was mining, so I was away for 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time. You weren't allowed out of camp to train.
Right.
You weren't allowed out of the camp for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I fell into a hole of like everyone else, and I was drinking alcohol, I was working 13, 14 hours a day. And I remember just sitting down one time, I was like, running doesn't pay my bills, it's not going to do anything. And I just said, look, I can get back to running when I go home.
Yeah.
And I put on 4 stone of weight in 18 months.
Right. That's a big change in lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, for somebody who would have been lean, who probably not watching your diet that much when you were younger, but you know, you were out there all the time and being active, keeping fit.
Yeah.
To suddenly find 4 stone on.
Yeah.
Starting to do a lot of sitting, maybe a lot of sedentary type jobs as well.
It sounds crazy, but it can happen so quick.
Yeah.
Like my wife, even we look back now, and I'd be like, excuse me, why'd you not tell me? Look at the state of me. And she's like, I didn't even notice. Do you know?
Just crept on.
How do you put 4 stone on and no one notices? Like, you know, but I remember coming home then and different members of my family were saying comments like, you fairly filled out. And I was taking this as a compliment. Did you not know
you had to change the wardrobe?
At the start, I was like, yeah, thanks. You know, looking, I was like, fuck, nah, maybe. And then when I come home, I thought, right, I'm back to here where I'm from and home. I want to go back running with my friends. And every time I tried to go back running, I just got hurt.
That's 4 stone was starting to...
So that just wasn't happening for a long time.
And that sort of, when you came back home again and trying to settle back into the routine and the lifestyle that you had and the running that you had, was that something you thought you wanted to get back into? You wanted to get back into that, setting the paces, winning the races again? Yeah,
well, I never had anything to try and win races or anything like that. But running's been a massive part of my life for my whole life. And it's took me through all sorts of times. Like, I'm sure everyone's the same. Running's there when you're happy, it's there when you're sad. I lost 2 friends when I was a young teenager, and that was my get out, my, like, you know, this'll... And it's been there through all your life. So when I was away and I was getting fat, like, I thought this was great fun. You know, I was out, I was drinking and partying, and that was your void, that was your whole, like, it's all right not to be running, I've got all this. Yeah. So when I come back home, I always wanted to be back to it. Like, that's, you know, you're looking at you're driving up roads that you used to run, you're like, oh, I love running up this. So I always wanted to be back to it, like, but it just seemed so far away when you were overweight.
And then how did you then turn that around and say, okay, this is 4 stone, we've got to work on it, we've got to shave it off, we've got to...
So I tried a few times to come back running, just, like, I'd never known how to run that much overweight, like, so every time I went out, got hurt, I was like, why am I getting hurt when you're carrying this big belly, like, and you're going... So then, someone had, I can't even remember who, but someone had said, why don't you get a bike and go out cycling and maybe drop a bit of weight, and then, so I was like, right, okay, that sounds good. Bought a little cheap winter bike, went cycling for a couple of Saturdays with this wee group of men, and then they were like, why don't you join Newry Wheelers? I said, yeah, okay, sounds good. And with anything, like, if you've got a sporting background or anything, I just jumped in, like.
Yeah.
And within 6 months, I wanted to go to the Tour de France. I wanted to be, I had 4 bikes in the house, so I was like, right, how quick can I get better? So I did that for about 2 years and probably lost about 2 stone off the 4 stone. And then I started getting back at it, competing, but every time I was on the bike, I would see people running, or I'd run past and I'd love to be back.
That's where I want to be. Yeah. I want to be back on the...
Yeah, but then I was stuck in a wee trap where I was like, God, I'm in races here and I'm competing for this club, and you know, you find a thing with your club, you're like, I'm part of a wee thing here, like, and I don't want to just drop and leave. And I just made this mad decision one day and had to send them a wee message, and we're like, nothing's wrong, but I just want to stop. Like,
well, that club linked you back into the man that...
The Monaghan's again.
The Monaghan's. So Brian was in it, and Barry's son Brenton did a bit of cycling as well through that. So the man that started counting you around College Gardens, Newry Wheelers, then give you that...
Barry was then picking me on cycling teams. So I just sat one... We had our first kid, and cycling takes up a lot of time, like, in comparison to running. Like, you could be out in the bike 4 or 5 hours on most days, on a Saturday 5 or 6 hours on a Sunday. And I went to a race on a Saturday, and I remember being, like, away in this break all day. And to me, it was like, if you're the fittest person there, you should be fit to win a race, like our running races. But it wasn't the case in cycling. Like, you would sit all day and then you get caught. And then I got tanked on a Saturday. Went home on the Saturday night, I was like, I need to find a race on Sunday to make up for what I'd done yesterday. I was away 9 hours on the Saturday, away 8 hours on the Sunday, and we just had a wee child and all. I was like, and I sat down, and I think it was January time, 2012, 2018.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I think I might sign up for Dublin Marathon. I'd never ever done a marathon, maybe one half
So you
marathon.
switched out of the cycling around the time you decided to do the marathon?
I come into the winter on bikes, hated the winter on bicycles, and in the January sat down in the house and was like, I'm going to put an entry in for Dublin, which was the October.
Yeah, the October.
So I just sent the club a message and was like, I'm out,
Yeah.
I'm done, and I just never went back.
So where did you go then? How did you start focusing on marathon training? Because January you're too far away to be thinking about getting into a training plan for the marathon.
Yeah.
What were you trying to adjust, trying to reassess?
I always wanted to do London Marathon. You grew up, most of us grew up and you see London Marathon on TV, and it was a big thing in my house. You heard that theme tune and Brenton Foster talking. So this was my ultimate goal, like to go and do London Marathon. As we all know, like you have to make times, and this good for AIDS 3 hour thing. And I was like, wonder if I done one here and broke 3 hours, would it be good enough to get me in? So
London.
My original idea was I'll start in January, this will drop weight, and if I can go to Dublin, you could get into Dublin easy back then, right?
Back in 2018, you went online, you were in Dublin.
Nearly a week before,
yeah.
So I was like, if I can get to Dublin, break 3 hours, and then that'll get me into the big London. So that was why I just wanted to break 3 hours in the first one. Like so, as January started, I was out and I was doing a day on, day off, day on, day off, and then a couple of weeks later, I'd do 2 days and a day off, and it just went from that. Like, and
do you like the way he said, I just wanted to break 3 hours?
That was my goal.
As you do. I'll do Dublin and I'll just break 3 hours and that'll be it. We were on a similar trajectory as well, because I was told I had to lose weight. I went on to the towpath down behind the college and started to run for 20 seconds and walk for 40 seconds and do all that type of stuff. Got up and did Newry half marathon in 2017 and did Lisburn half marathon in 2017. And then after Lisburn, Newry, I thought, I want to do a marathon as well. And I had seen London on the television too, and I thought, I'll message the hospice. James is here tonight. I'll message the hospice, see if they're putting a team in for London. So I got onto the London team for 2018. That got me going. Teamed up with some of the City Runners, Colin and Peter, and got into the group for them. But when I went over the starting line in London, the music was playing. Even though I was running with the guys dressed as gorillas and refrigerators because I had no time at all, but the tears were in my eyes going across that, and you suddenly felt emotionally connected
crying
with
in the
something.
field before.
Yeah.
You know, it's an emotional game, like, and a lot of people here that have done them, you'll understand, like, do you know, I didn't cry when my granddad died, and I'm crying in the field like, before London Marathon comes on. Like, it's a weird one, do you know, and you put months and months into it, and you just want it to go right, and in that wee journey, things don't go right, they go wrong, and you get kicked back, and so it's...
How did that first Dublin go for you then in 2018?
I got my eyes open big time, like, I didn't respect the marathon as much as I should have.
Yeah.
I blew a wee bit. I run 240 in 26 seconds for my first one, so that was a good start.
Not a bad start, is it? Not a bad for anyone that's any goals that they want to be setting. And the preparation for that, did you get together with a running club? Did you get together with a group that
I've
you
been
wanted to
part
train
of
with?
Armagh Athletic Club from I was 14, like, so I never left. Like, you know, if my loyalty's there, it'll always be there.
Yeah.
I paid my membership when I was away in fat. I still paid it. It was you know, so when I come back, like, I just wanted to be back, but I didn't.
But did you train up with a group?
No,
or did you go with a group to train into that for 2018?
I've pretty much from then to now, like, I very rarely run with a group, like, just with busy life and different things like that. Now, Sundays I would try and match up. Back then I would have tried to match up with as many people as you could anywhere, and they would go to Gosford on a Sunday and stuff like that. But everything then was just, I followed it on too. There's no mad structure or no, like, back then it was like, how many miles can you get in a week, like, and just run it nice and slow. I never done, like, for that marathon, there's no speed sessions, no speed work, no hill work, no nothing. Just ran.
You just ran
8-minute mile as often as I could get out, like.
Yeah.
So there's nothing.
And coming out of Dublin then, had you a sense at that stage of Willie's record? When did that start to come into your head and think
I've
that's
known
something?
what it
You always
was.
knew about Willie and
Yeah,
incredible
God,
runner.
Yeah. And, like, I told him this a couple of years ago, like, when I was only I think 10 or 11. I don't have anyone, the older crowd, I'm not looking at you, Damien. Remember, there used to be a race from Carlingford back to Newry and they had like international athletes. Do you remember that?
Yes, did it.
And Willie was in it years ago, and I remember being like 12 years of age and coming into my parents and be like, will you take me downtown? The wee old man from the Meadows running this race. And I remember his vest and everything, and I remember standing there waiting on him coming in. Like, so obviously I knew who he was and how good he was. Like, but when I run 240, I was knackered. I remember coming over the line totally empty, like, and then someone saying something like, you know, God, imagine that, and you're like, where on earth do you think? Look at me.
Where are you going to
Where do you
get that
make
from?
up 17 minutes? Like, it's impossible. So back then, even for maybe 3 years after that, you're like, listen, people are going to say these things.
You're the man. You're going to be the man to break the record.
So silly, like,
you're going to be the man to break the record.
Yeah.
People are saying to you, when did you actually start to focus and say, you know, Willie was talking about it in the video there, when did you start to focus and saying, this is the time that I'm going to aim for?
Probably.
We're now 2024.
Yeah. First of all, my own club had a club record and an Armagh record, which was 2:26:53. So that was my first, like, you know, like I say, you're not going to shoot from I was 240.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. I trained a lot over COVID and come out of COVID and ran Belfast and jumped to 2:33.
Yeah.
So at that stage then it was like, God, I wonder how much it would take to break 2:30. And it's always moving, like.
Yeah.
So when I broke 2:30 for the first time, it was like 2:27. And then my own club record came into, God, 2:26:53. So I aimed for that first in Dublin. And again, you're going, from 2:27 to 2:23 is massive.
Yeah,
massive. People don't, So I shot for my own club record first. It was 2:26:53. Went to Dublin and ran 2:26:52. 1 sec. No, 50. Sorry, it was 52. I ran 53.
1 second.
I was 1 second outside
1
it.
second.
And
how did you feel?
Shit.
1 second.
Sorry.
I know there are people. I know there are people in the room who had a target and missed it by seconds.
And as soon as I come over the line,
and you go,
and my wife was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Don't! There's no way it couldn't be." And I would rather it was.
Can I get a recount?
Oh, and I was going, "What about chip times and gun times and all?"
Times.
And there's a photo of it's my old coach, like there's a photo of me and him, and we're over the line at the exact same times above the clock, like.
Yeah.
But
and that 1 second is.
It had me up for 12 months.
It's a hair's breadth, isn't it?
Yeah, I had to run off 4,000 mile in a whole year to get it.
Yeah.
Do you know? So
to knock off 1 second.
So then when I got his, I went 2:26 low, 16 or 19 or something in Berlin, and probably around that time. Then you're like, right, okay, 2:26 flat, roughly. And I remember in Berlin falling apart a wee bit in the last few miles. So I was like, well, if I could fix that. I remember actually specifically in Berlin checking my watch, and when it hit what Willie's time was, I could see the finish. And I was like, that's how far, that's how close it is. It's only that much, like.
Just asking for a friend.
Yeah, go.
How do you fix those last few miles? Because
I still haven't sussed it out yet.
you only see those last few miles when you're doing those last few miles. You got to do all the miles up to those last few miles to fix them.
Yeah.
Go on. How do you work on that?
I don't. Everybody's different. Do you know what I mean? I could tell you what works for me, and it mightn't work for you. Like, and that's why, you know, everybody. I would like a chance tonight to get that across to lots of people. I'm not saying I'm any more knowledgeable than anyone in here, but I've learned a lot of stuff in the 6 years. I've done a lot of things wrong, and everybody needs to understand that we're all very different. Like, there's a lot of people hanging like off the same hymn sheet, and we're all like, okay, we'll all do this and we'll all do that.
Here's a plan, follow the plan.
Yeah, and everything and everybody needs to be tailored in regards to, like, I can tell you what I do and people don't believe it. I say it all the time. I don't do speed work, I don't do hill repeats, I don't do gym work, I don't do any of that. But I can run 5:23 mile pace for 26 mile. But that works for me. There's other guys out there that are slim and lean and didn't used to be fat, and they'll stay like that. Yeah. They don't need 120 mile a week. They need to get sharp. They need to be on the track. So for me, to fix that last bit, I was having to go longer runs. Like, my wife says to me one day about long runs on a Sunday, you keep falling apart at 23 mile. At 23 mile on a Sunday run, do you fall apart? And I was like, I don't know, I'm done.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? And she doesn't come from a running background. So sometimes when she says things to you, you go, oh God, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm not seeing them.
And you can talk to a room full of runners, and we all mightn't, you know, sometimes it's better to speak to someone from outside.
Yeah.
So I started making my long runs 23 mile, 24 mile, 25 mile. I'm not telling people to do that.
Yeah.
But for me, it meant then, even mentally, after 23 mile, when I was hitting this trouble in the marathon, I was like, well, I've been here before. I've done it 9 Sundays in a row. I've gone to 24, I've gone to 25. I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Don't be panicking. If you can get to 25, you're going to get to 26.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest, well, I hope most people, that was my biggest change there in trying to make sure that you don't.
So you were starting to see those tail miles more often.
Yeah.
You weren't waiting until on the day.
Yeah, and I just think maybe, like old school, I remember first time in marathons and people were saying, oh, as long as your long run gets to 20 mile.
Yeah.
And my first marathon training, I was like, 20, done a few 21s. And then at 22 miles, you start crumbling.
Yeah.
You're still 4 miles to go.
You're still 4 miles to go.
Do you know? So, and I probably did that for 2 or 3 years going, sure, nobody does it. I mean, you look, most people don't, like.
Yeah.
But again, it worked for me, like.
You were saying along the way you did things that were wrong.
Yeah.
What type of things did you do that were wrong so maybe people can avoid doing them and making the same mistakes?
I've done one now. I'm supposed to be going to Valencia this weekend to run Valencia Marathon, and I've had to pull out today. I've done Dublin 4 weeks ago, come out of it, felt class for a whole week, probably running on adrenaline and happiness and all the rest. I took 2 days off, come straight back to running, done 70 mile that week, done 120 the following week, was going for another 2 weeks of 120 miles, and the whole Achilles all flared up. I didn't give myself enough recovery. I've done it in the past. Yes, you learn from it and all the rest. This time I'm going, but I felt okay in Dublin. I've come out of Dublin. I'm feeling fresh. I'm good. Sometimes these things will work.
Yeah.
There's sayings on both sides. Don't do this, don't do that. There's people that say, strike while the iron's hot. You're fit. You're in good shape. I'm 38. Like, I'm not getting any younger. I've only got a window to do these times. So I thought, figured I'll push. And Valencia was my swing at going, figured. And I was going to just attack it and see what happens. I've nothing to lose. And I've had to make a decision today that if I go, I'm going to put myself out for 2 or 3 months. So I'm still making mistakes.
Yeah.
I've made lots of them in the last 6 years, but there's a silly one now that I've ran great a couple of weeks ago and I'm still making.
Yeah. In that film that we saw with you and Willie earlier on, that was probably about a year ago, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, Willie was saying, I want you to break it. I want you to be the man that breaks that record that I've held for all these years. If we look back over the prep and the time into Dublin 2024, were you doing anything different to chip off those seconds, those minutes that you needed to lose to beat the record?
Not really. This carry-on, look, everyone knows it's a long game. Like, you have to.
Well, that's what Willie said. It took years for him to get the record.
Yeah, and it's you gotta have so much patience. Like, people may think you're mad now when we get the entry thing out for Dublin Marathon next year, and you're going, I'm entering for this thing a year away. And you have to understand, in the next year you're going to face troubles and this and that. So I've not really done anything different, because each year things are going in the right direction, even though every now and again it'll take a dip. Come round Dublin, touch wood, every year I go well again. Do you know what I mean? So over the last, I've done Dublin 5 times, and every time it's got better. But if you look at the year of 2024, I've had 2 wee injuries that held me back.
Right.
I done a 5k PB in February, and I thought, this is it. This is my year. I'm going to fly. I did a half marathon. I was a minute off my PB. I did a London marathon. Blew apart. Well, it didn't blow apart. I had a hamstring thing, but I was around 2:31.
Yeah.
And at that day, I thought 2:24, 2:25, definitely.
2:31 with a hamstring in London Marathon is some achievement.
But again, it's difficult and hard to come away, run a 2:31 and not. You can be annoyed with yourself and you can go home, but you can't walk around the shopping centre and stop people and go, shite, it was crap.
Yeah.
And you go, what do you mean? It was a 2:31 marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of stuff you keep to yourself, and why you get so annoyed about it. And
when you're keeping that to yourself, a lot of people say you've got to offload that. You've got to say to someone, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel well. I need to reset myself and go. Do you internalize all of that?
A lot of it, yeah. Like, no one really cares. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like this is it's a very individual sport.
Yeah,
it's all on you. Like, and
you run your own race.
Yeah, and you can have your teammates and your running buddies and all the rest. When the gun goes in the marathon, Where are they? Like, they're nowhere to be seen. And if you're my teammate, my buddy all year, like, I want to beat 50,000. I want to beat you. I don't really care about anyone else. And so when you come out of it, like, it's all right. People will stop you and say, "Oh God, that's like." So it's you dealing with it. It's you has to. If things go wrong, you've 10 miles to go and you're crying. Oh, how am I facing this? So you try and use it and utilize that as a tool or whatever. It's very difficult to come home from these days and then put your gear on and go back out in the wind and the rain on Monday and go, here we go again.
Here we go again.
You know, so me personally, just keep it to yourself, like, and do what you got to do to get through it. Like,
so tell me, in the run up, then you say, you know, no speed sessions, no hill repeats. You just go out and run. I mean, what type of miles are you clocking up when you're cranking it up for the big marathon?
A week or day or a week?
Well, over a week.
In the last, so you really try and focus on the last probably 10 weeks, with 8 of those being vitally important. Like, so if you're 10 weeks out from the marathon, your 2 weeks out is going to be coming down. So those 8 weeks, yes, we're always running all year. So there's, unless you're someone who doesn't run and isn't training, then you can have this 20 week, 16 week, whatever. But I'm running all year anyway. So for me, it's like, right, things will really crank 12 weeks out, then 10 weeks out. But that 10 weeks out, I'm trying my best to go like 110 mile a week, 120, then 130. And then I'll take an easier week. And maybe you'll drop that week where you'll find a 10K, a half marathon, or whatever, something. If not, just use that as your week. Have your Chinese, have your pint or whatever you want, and just have a week of deload your brain. Yeah. That's something that I adapted a couple of years ago. I'm sure there's loads of people do it all around the world, like, but I've noticed a lot of runners and marathon runners that they go into something with 16 weeks, and it's a 16 week or a 20 week block towards that, and come 12 weeks, 13, 14, you're just mentally drained, and you're like, oh, when's this coming to an end? So when I adapted that sort of approach, that this was going on, then it was getting to taper week, and you were seeing people saying, oh, thank God, I'm ready for this, and I was going, God, I'm okay, like, I don't really, do you know, so for me, maybe go 16 weeks, and in that 16, if you've got 3 big ones, then drop down a little bit. Yeah. And if I was going up to 130, I'd drop down to maybe 70. It's almost half. Yeah. 70 miles, still a good week.
Still a big
You're
week.
putting rest days in there, you're having a bit of crappy food or whatever, but in those 10 weeks, I'm trying to go 110, 120, 130.
But those big miles now, you're putting your body at the risk of injury, aren't you? I mean, and how do you, what techniques, what do you do to try and avoid? I mean, you talked about the Achilles. Now you came back too soon after Dublin started the big miles too soon. You know, when you're in that run-in that 10, 12-week period, how are you managing to avoid injury? Or what techniques are you using to try to avoid injury?
Listen to your body. Like, it's the best line you will ever get given to you in any bit of this sport. Like, just listen to it. It is the biggest teller. A coach can tell you to do this, this, and this, and they're great, and that's where you should have a good relationship with your coach too. Where you should be able to approach them and say, look, I am flattened here. But the only thing, I'm saying this after telling you this happened, but like my training during the week, if I feel good this morning, I wake up and I clock out 15 mile most mornings. If I wake up on a Tuesday morning and I'm fresh and I'm feeling good and I'm jumping out of my skin and it's a nice morning, I'll just lean into it. Yeah. I'll lean into it, and you look at the pace, and the pace will be quick. God, we're feeling good. Tomorrow you're going to wake up a wee bit tired from that. Go easy. Yeah. Like, I don't have a structure where I'm like, okay, Monday, Tuesday I go hard, Wednesday I go easy. Because if that's on a plan, on a piece of paper, and then I go, oh my God, I have to do this today, and I am knackered. So I just work. Your
body's telling you.
Just listen to it. Listen to it. Please trust it. Listen to it. And when the aches and pains come, just take a wee step back. And even for me, like, I've had this happen before and ran a marathon through it. So hopefully, I know it sounds silly that I'm here again, but this time, I've learned from the last time. This time, don't go to the marathon. Yeah. Step back, listen to it, fix it. Take 2 weeks, take a breather, and we'll be back.
Yeah,
do you know?
Get Christmas over.
Yeah, do you know? Well, I want to be running over Christmas.
You're going to late.
I'll give this thing a week. That'll be enough. You know what I mean? But please just take that. If you don't take anything else away from tonight, just listen to your body when it's talking to you. Like, do you know what I mean? You should know it better than anybody. Any coach, any physio, anything, you'll know it better than anybody when you're wrecked, when you're tired. If there's something on schedule or a plan, bounce to your coach, or if it's your own plan, move it the next day, change it. It's not a big deal. We're in this for a long stretch. So that's my best.
I was talking to Barry Monaghan earlier, and he said, I'm going to be talking to Foxy tonight. Give me a bit of an inside knowledge. But he kept everything close to his. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But he said, one thing you could ask him, and he said, coming from a cyclist perspective, he said cyclists and cycling in terms of nutrition and nutrition during an event is still about 15 years, he was saying, ahead of where runners are. And anticipating or understanding that trying to get nutrition on board when you're running is quite different when you're cycling, because you can take moments in cycling to get that nutrition on board. How do you plan your nutrition? What are you thinking about planning for race day? How far ahead do you plan what you're going to take on board for race day?
As marathon runners are born, right? Again, not personal to anybody here. We're a born bunch, right? We like the same stuff every day, the same breakfast, the same lunch, the same dinner. I do, right? I would eat the same breakfast, lunch and dinner every day. I don't like to go too mental on diets and calories and nutrition and all. That can overtake the whole thing. Try and keep yourself half right. But with me, just don't change anything. You read this in books anyway. Do you know what I mean? Don't change anything. Don't change anything in the lead-in. Don't change anything if your breakfast is the same thing every morning, if it's the same thing on a Sunday long run, stick with it the whole way through. Do you know what I mean? And then in regards to nutrition in the race itself, it's individualized to everybody. I take 3 gels in a marathon. That's it. 7 mile, 14 mile, 21 mile. I don't take nothing else. If there's water on the course, I'll try and get some. If there's Lucozade Sport on the course, Lucozade Sport's a good one to use because it's at a lot of marathons, locally or here. If you go to London, it's being used, or if you go to a marathon foreign, you can maybe get it in them countries. So I tend to use it here. Yeah. If I'm training on Sunday, maybe we'll go the night before, plant it out. Yeah. But I don't really.
Do you take your gels on that 10-week run-in as well?
Not even that far. I've been using the same gels for a long time.
Your gut knows it.
Yeah. Probably maybe 6 weeks out, start taking them again just to get back into it. People that chop and change a lot of gels and stuff too, but everybody's different. Yeah. There's guys that take gel every 5k. You also have to take into consideration how long you're out. Yeah. If you're a 5-hour marathon runner, you're going to need more than a guy that's doing 220, 230. Yeah. Do you know, you can go deeper with all that, but there's no point going deeper with all that if you're not mastering the basic stuff.
What about footwear? What do you think in terms of what you're going to put in your feet?
Racing, training, or both? Well, training, I like to try all different ones. Like the shoes are changing all the time. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of people. I just think people shouldn't be wearing fancy carbon-plated race shoes training.
If there's a second in it, though.
Not in training. No, use it as your. You want to go to the day of the race and have your wee skimpy shorts and your wee light vest and everything feels good. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Your shoes feel class. See people out the towpath and they're hammering along in these £300 shoes. Number one, how are you affording them to rack them? And number two, then what's going to happen on the day? You're not going to get that wee, But training, I wouldn't even give you a particular brand. Like I've 3 or 4 different brands and I'll use them now. But shoes are only doing maybe 400 or 500 miles. If you're running 120 mile a week, you need a pair every 6 weeks. Yeah. So I'll get 2 or 3 pairs, burn them out, and then maybe change to something else. Racing, I haven't raced in anything but Nike since 2019.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah, they're ahead. In my opinion, they're ahead of the game.
And just on race day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, their training shoes are crap, I think. But their race shoes they're class. And there's a lot of other shoes are coming up and competing with them, but then they're flashy and cool colours and all too, so that adds to the whole thing, you know what I mean?
A wee bit of image in there too.
You look good, feel good, run good, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's look at Dublin 2024. We're coming into it, you're feeling good. You've got all the miles are well done under the belt. You got the race shoes on. What type of prep do you do on the morning of a marathon? When do you like to get there in terms of time?
I like to be early. So Dublin's class. You're only an hour's drive down the road. We park in the same street every year, and Michelle.
You have a wee routine in the morning time.
Oh yeah. But Michelle and the kids and all come down, and your family and your friends can come down and watch you, and also it's good. It's a distraction. You're going down in the car and you're feeding kids in the back, and you know what I mean. So it takes away from the whole. You're letting it get inside your head, and then you leave there, and like anyone, you just head up the streets of Dublin, and it's super. It's so exciting, everybody, once you leave your family and all, you know that everyone around you is in the same boat. Like, you're all nervous.
Do you start to get that buzz early on? Do you get nervous?
Not really, no. I used to, like. I get more excited now, like. Do you know, I used to get, back then, I was seeing marathons as a race, like.
Yeah.
And now you're like, you're never going to win one of these, like. It's not a race, like. It's
Never say never.
No,
never say never.
there's something wrong with it in marathons. But now it's just you, like, you know what I mean? And I honestly get far more excited now than I get nervous, like.
Yeah.
Nah.
Tell you, I meant to ask you, well, hold that thought for a second. I meant to ask you on those long runs, do you put music in the ears? Do you listen to podcasts
Yeah,
at
both.
all?
Yeah, both. You're out there, like, majority of mine is on my own, like. So if you're 2.5, 3 hours out on your feet, like, swap it up. Podcast music. If you listen to podcasts, you could be learning something.
But do you ever zone out? You know, I've found it, and not all the time, but sometimes I find if I'm doing a long run, I can miss miles in it.
Oh,
And suddenly I'm at mile 10 and going, what happened to 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9?
I conquer
Just
the
get
world every
into it.
Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to, will I get home and I do this and I'm going to show, and then you get home doing nothing. But yeah, that's the whole point though.
Yeah.
The whole point in that is, it's great. You're training yourself to zone out, and you're training yourself just go, oh my God, there's another one. There's another one. Do you know? So that's a good thing. But yeah, music, podcast, it's good. Yeah,
And Dublin this year, the weather was perfect running conditions, wasn't it?
perfect.
Compared to last year, which
Yeah.
was horrendous.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
New start, and I'm just looking here. Starting gun goes. What are you thinking about when they drop the hooter and off you go?
Relax. I'd say at least 5,000 times. It's like I knew before.
Because you don't have any pacers. There's nobody
No.
around you who knows knows what's in your head,
No.
knows what you're trying to achieve.
And you spend the year racing against guys that are all around the same standard, and you're not doing a race and you're watching how they do, and then you come home and you're doing a different race and you're comparing times and you're looking, and then you go to the race on the day, and everyone should have that. You'll have your own wee group of people that when you go, you're always around, or you're beating, or they're beating you. Like, so when the race took off, there's 3 or 4 lads that I was like, great, that's my group, that's my guys, and they were gone.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this wasn't part of the plan. What happens now? Do you know? So my plan pace was 5:25s. I come through the first mile in 5:18. I was like, now what do we do? Like,
That's what I was going to say. I was just looking at your Strava here.
Okay.
And, the best bit of advice I always give everybody that I ignore is don't go off too fast.
what was my first mile?
You went off too fast. You were 5:17.
Oh, I thought it was 18.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
5:17.
bloody
Well,
next
according
one.
to
What was the next
Strava,
one?
next one you pulled it back a bit,
Yeah.
5:21.
Yeah.
You're getting into the zone there,
But yeah, you just have to spend as much time and just relax, and just don't let anyone else dictate your race. Like,
But you're out in that route now. You've 26 miles ahead of you at 5:25, 5:17, 5:23 to get onto that target time. Dropping down onto the Liffey, across the Liffey, up into Phoenix Park, past the zoo. You're starting to be isolated as a runner at that stage, aren't you? Because
Yeah.
those guys have gone ahead.
there's a group behind.
Probably
them.
a group behind,
Yeah.
but you're back on your training on your own. How do you keep that focus to maintain that pace across those 26 with everything that's going on? The crowds are there, the route's there, you can probably see the lead car up ahead at some stage.
The ultimate goal through that 26 mile is to stay as relaxed as you can for as long as you can. At some point it's going to get bad, or at some point it's going to get tough, so if every wee tick you can go next one, and you can just stay as relaxed as you can for as long as you can. Everyone use different things. Use what you like, drift off into a different world.
Yeah.
Just think to yourself, I do this every Sunday. And my whole thing all the time is just stay as relaxed as you can for as long as you can. Relax, chill out, and do a wee checklist and be like, you feeling good? Yeah, I'm all right. Legs sore? No, I'm good. Breathing okay? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Just keep, and just move on, and in the box will tick, there's another one. How you feeling? It sounds mad, you're talking through it by yourself, but if every one of them, you can just remain like that for as long as you can. And Dublin's ideal because we've got little pulls, we've got drops. In my head, every time there's a wee drop, relax. In your nose, out your mouth, take 30 seconds. You're going to be moving at the same pace and just calm the whole thing down. And for me, stay as relaxed as I can for as long as I can. That's the goal.
But Dublin's that long pull as well. You got 7 miles of that long pull up to the highest.
Yeah.
Up through the park. up through Castleknock before you
Yeah.
take that left, and you're still climbing there. You think you get to the church and you think, I'm up at the top. You go around the corner, you're still climbing up. Keeping that focus and that discipline to know, I'm going up there. I mean, you're still hitting that pace going up the hills, and you're holding it on the way down as well.
Yeah, but that's where you can completely spin that around and be like, right, it's tough enough holding this, but there's a treat coming outside of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to, what you go up, you must come down, like, well, most of the time. But, like, if you can hold that a wee bit strong, it's going to take a little bit more effort, whatever. So that mindset of being relaxed and calm isn't going to be there for that time being. Yeah. But once that's over, the next spot you find, right, we got that, that's done, that's over and done with. And there's only so many of those pulls. Look at Heartbreak Hill, for example. You go up it, it's short, it's steep. But as soon as you get to the top of it, there's a long drop down the other side.
And you're down the other
side.
So
going up that, you should be thinking in your head, just whoa, get up and over it, get to the top. When we get to the other side with a long... And
that's
come
the
back
technique
again.
for Heartbreak Hill, guys. You just go up it and go over the
Get
other.
over it.
It's at 22, isn't it? There.
I think so, yeah. And then again, you go out to 23 on the road, you've got the wee flyover.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we're going to go into a crappy, get up and over that, and then you're right, okay, relax again.
Where did it hurt? Were there any times when you felt tough pain?
Dublin this year?
Yeah.
No, none. And that's why I thought I would be fit to run.
You were just relaxed. You were in the zone
the whole time.
When did you think you're on the pace to take Willie's record?
My plan was to go through halfway in 1:12, which would have that was 2:24 pace. Yeah. His time was 2:23.53, which meant we needed to make up 7 seconds in the second half. I think on 3 occasions I've ran quicker in Dublin the second half. So it's great if I come through in 1:12 as relaxed as I can. And then the whole thing, like I say, it ticked off and you're like, that's a wee bit, 2 seconds maybe. Yeah. And when I got to halfway, I was 1:10.48, I think, so it was a minute and 10 seconds up on what I had planned. But I kept rechecking myself. I was like, you good? Yeah, I'm all right. If legs okay? Yeah, good. And you're going, God, please don't let this come back and bite me. Like. And Willie was on the course that day, and I'd seen him at like 5K, and he was relax. And I'm looking him in the eyes, and I'm like, don't you tell me to relax. But at the same time, I'm like, I hope this doesn't come back on me. Do you know? So at halfway, I knew I had a minute to play with, and still felt class. Like. Yeah. So then you break it down, and it's like, right, get from halfway to 20 mile, and you get to 20 mile, and you've still got that minute. And
still 6 miles to go.
Yeah. But at that stage, I had my brother and my best mate at 20 mile with a drink, just Lucasy and water. And I was keeping in my head, I was like, right, get to 20 and hold on to this. And when you get to 20, get the drink, sip away at it for a mile, and then you're 5 mile to go. Yeah. And I got to 20 miles, saw the 2 boys, and was like, I don't need it. I'm fine. I'm okay. And I don't know whether it was a wee thing in your head where you're like, God, I must be good here that I turned that away. And I smiled at them and just give them thumbs up. And I could hear them then be like, yes! And I was like, oh God, even they know I'm good. I must look okay here. Yeah. And at 20 mile, I wasn't really sure. I had said to my wife the night before that if things went well, I'd run 2:22.30. That was my goal. Like, so on that, I wasn't sure if I was in around that, ahead of that, slightly ahead of it, because at 20 mile, I was like, 10K, like just keep a lid on it to 23, get over the Heartbreak Hill, breather going down, get to 23, get the ass side of it. If you get to 23 and over that, we fly over and you're still feeling good, let it rip then. And that was it then. I just tried to stay relaxed from 20 to 23, got over those 2 wee pulls, and then at 23, I just stopped looking at the watch. Yeah. So then that's why, like, there's no need to look at it at that stage.
You're into the park run territory.
Yeah. So no, like at that stage, I knew I was okay. I didn't know by how much though. Yeah. Because your head goes a wee bit, like, and you're checking that each one of them's ahead of the split you want. But when you start trying to figure out, one was 2 seconds up, one was 3, then maybe your average is showing, and you're like, many does that work out in total? And it might be an easy wee sum to do if you're in the house on a Tuesday night, but after 23 miles, you can't put 2 and 2 together.
You're recalculating ahead all the time.
So I just, at the 23, when I went up the thing, I just stopped looking at the watch and was like, look, as long as you just stay.
Feeling good.
Yeah. So I just kept being like, pretty sure I'm going to hit that 2:22.30. God, imagine I did. That'd be good, wouldn't it? And then when I turned the last wee corner, I'd seen 2:21 low on the clock, and I was like, what has happened over the last 6 miles?
You were saying Willie was on the route.
Yeah.
I heard, and I haven't spoken to him, but I heard Willie was about a mile or 2 miles out.
25 miles was the last I seen.
25 miles, and he was looking at the watch, and he had the video out, and he was videoing you, and apparently on the video he turns to Drew and says, he's going to beat me.
I don't know what his exact comment was.
I don't know how that would have felt for Willie. You know, I haven't spoken to him since, but
yeah.
Did you spot him at 25?
25 mile, yeah. And Willie, I don't know whether he was keeping secrets or he tells me he doesn't remember some of his stuff. Like, but anytime I ask him in the marathon, I'm like, what was it like? What did it feel like? He's like, I can't remember. And I'm like, But he always told me about hitting 25 mile at a certain time.
Yeah.
And he was like, I hit 25 mile and then around the last. And he obviously knew what his time was at 25 mile. And then I have the video on my phone and he turns to Drew and he goes, what is it? What is it? And Drew's like 2:15. And I think at the time he was 2:16, 17, whatever, I can't remember. So at that point then he would have known then, like, I had only a mile to go, like, and I was running pretty well through 25 mile, like, yeah.
And that new finish where you come in and around by, it's like a church, isn't it? And
yeah, it's far nicer.
That's sort of wee chicane, you come around and suddenly the finish line is in front of you. You were talking earlier about just that emotion swelled up in you.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It's weird because you're so switched off, like, well, I was anyway, so switched off. There's so many people sent me videos when I come home that took them along the road and I'm like, I didn't see no family members and everything shouting at you.
Yeah.
And I was completely, until, you know, when you turn to 26, it said 300 to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, 300 metres? That's nothing. And then before you knew it said 200. And I was like, shit. And then turned the last one, it said 100. And nothing hit me at all till then. Yeah. And it was only a wee tiny running, like. Yeah. And it just, like I said, just broke down and cried. And even when I got over the line, I was running around, tears everywhere, blood everywhere. You know, it's a whole, people don't see it, like you've months and months of wind and rain and dark mornings and snow and injuries and everything. Yeah. And just to get, like, I think that was marathon number 12 for me, like, and probably only 2 of them have gone good. Perfect, like, so.
And this went perfect in so many ways.
Perfect, yeah. Perfect.
What was the atmosphere like? Because you're coming up, I mean, I'm coming up way behind you, but the crowds and the atmosphere I thought this year in Dublin were amazing for where I was. What was it like at that stage when you were going across it? Could you feel the crowd getting with you?
No, I honestly not really. Like, no? I didn't feel or hear anyone till 100 metres to go. Yeah, and at that stage, I kind of wanted to walk a wee bit. I was like, I'd like to take this in, you know. Mm-hmm. But again, I was like, hold on a second, this is now my record. Yeah. I need to get every second I can here for the next young fellas coming behind me, like. But yeah, it was a weird one, and I wish I could remember a wee bit more of it, like. Yeah. But I was just so zoned in, like, so relaxed, but in my own wee world, like.
And 10 minutes afterwards, 15 minutes afterwards, a half an hour afterwards, how did you feel?
Still crying. Still. Yeah, like, it's, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that, like, you know, it's I've put a lot of time and effort into it, like, and you sort of, it's a weird one because you come up the line and I finished 13th place or something and you're brought into this tent and you ever watch the man, you know, when you watch London, right, this is going to sound so sad, right, but they put the towel around them, right? I always say to my wife, where did they get them towels? Like Virgin Marathon towels and that. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, I'd love one of them towels. Where do they get them? Imagine having that in your house, like. And this woman come at me with this big purple Dublin towel, and I was like, fuck, I got a towel. I was all chuffed with this towel, and then she took me in this tent and all. And you're in the tent with these wee lads from Kenya and Africa and all. I'm standing there with my big bleeding nipples and all. And like, I'm pretty sure I'm not meant to be in here, like. So it's just mad, like, you know. And I couldn't wait to get out of the tent then. I was like, I shouldn't be here, like, you know. And so,
of course you should have been there.
No, but it's just strange. It's a weird feeling.
Why would you not be there?
It's just weird. It's weird. I don't really like it. Like, it's strange. It really is strange. Like, and you're like, get me back out to. I want to go back out to my own people here. Like, strange, very strange. But I'm happy with my towel. It's hanging in my bathroom. I was delighted. Like, but
it's like the Oscars. People say they put the Oscars in the bathroom as well. You put the towel in the bathroom.
Nobody's allowed to touch it. But you walk away then, and you've come off this lane, and you're in this tent with all these top boys, and then they're being interviewed, and you're going, Jesus, look at your man, you know. And they're all so skinny and lean, and I still see myself as this wee well filled out boy, you know, and I'm sitting with my wee towel and all, I got my towel, this is class, giving you cups of tea. And then you go out and you're just walking up this big quiet street and you're forgetting that 20,000 people are still running, like. Yeah. And you can see people giving you a wee bit of a weird look that you're done and you have your medal around you and your towel and all, and they're looking at you and you're like, what are they looking at me for? Yeah. And then you go up quiet and you get back to your car, change into the car, and you sort of sit and you go, fuck, did that just happen? Yeah. Do you know? It's weird. It's a nice feeling, but it's strange. It's very weird.
And then when you get home, do you feel deflated a bit?
No, still not deflated.
Still
he got 43 years of it. I keep keeping this up. There's a couple of young lads in this town. I need to hold on to this for as long as I can.
Deflated is probably the wrong word. You feel sort of that you've achieved it now. Where do you go next?
Oh, sure. On the way home, I'd move the goalpost straight away. Like,
is that right?
Yeah. Like I said to you before, like I'm certainly not downplaying what Willie done is amazing, and I'm so grateful the bar he set, because it's pushed so many of the rest of us forward. Like, but in my head for a long time, I've known that it can run 222, maybe 221. Now they've run 221. 100% believe I can break 220. So it's not the goalpost just got shifted straight away, like, you know. So that's where I'm at now. Like, I don't know.
Next year?
Yeah, well, it should have been fucking
should have been
this week.
Valencia.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Look, well, I'll just listen to my body, take a back seat, and but yeah, the goalpost change, and you go home that night, like, and it's strange because again you have these big ideas of if I'm going to do this and do that, I'm going to get a big Chinese, and you just sit down. Got Chinese, pushed it around the plate for about an hour, you know. Mm-hmm. And the mad thing about it is, like, I couldn't wait to be back in my living room with my fire lit and my kids going mad, like, you know, they don't care what you just done, and they're jumping all over you and firing your medal around the living room. And that's, I love that. Like, I like that wee bubble. Your kids bring you back down to earth and all.
Bring you back down.
Yeah, I don't like that whole. It's nice to touch on that. Even before, like, we got walked out by guards and all this, like, and I'm looking back at all my wee mates, and I'm like waving at them, you know. I'm like, fuck, 3 years ago I was in there trying to go to the toilet in a bottle and stuff, like, you know, and getting walked out with all these lads, like, and it's strange. It's nice, and it's nice to see it, but it's very hard to comprehend, to put it into your head, like.
Michael, it's been fascinating to listen to you and to
you.
listen to that journey from running around college gardens.
Thanks so much.
And counting up to 30 and having to go around again to being the new king of the marathon for Newry.
Thank you.
Round of applause, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you.